Well, hello, everybody. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Mukund Raghunath from Acies Global. He is the founder and CEO. My name is Della, Shea, and I'm one of the founding editorial board members of CDO Magazine. Mukund, it's great to have you today. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Della. Thanks for having me on the CDO podcast today. And I'm now founder and CEO of a company called Acies Global, which helps many Fortune 1000 clients in their digital transformation journey.
So, Mukund, you have brought some really interesting thoughts and the way that you approach things with ACs Global. Can you tell me a little bit more, expand upon like how your organization is different than perhaps other companies in the same space?
Yeah. So I think, Della, what I spoke about earlier in terms of being able to bring technology and data science and business thinking together, I think sets us apart in the sense that we are able to help companies end to end make their intelligence more scalable and consumable, right? From everything from organizing their data, right, and
Right.
building the pipelines to doing the analysis to building custom applications or writing APIs to connect your insight to your applications end to end. I think and doing it on a continuous basis, not one time, right? So being able to constantly, when you're doing your data science, think about how to make it consumable, and when you're building your application, think about future applications of data science that can or analysis that needs to get done, and closing the loop on a continuous basis. We think of it as a digital continuum, and that's something I think is vastly different from what we've seen in the space.
Are there any examples or use cases that you could share with us that really can demonstrate like how you were able to help a client achieve their goals?
Sure, Della. So, I have a few examples in mind, but I'll take one example of where we helped a big electronics manufacturer based out of the East Coast in their supply planning initiatives. So this particular client has already invested in an enterprise system for their supply planning, demand forecasting, and so on. Right, but the challenge they were facing was the forecasting, demand forecasting that was coming out of these systems out of the box were
Mhm.
very generic and not very specific to the client's need. That means that the forecast worked for half of the SKUs, right? But the other half of the SKUs, the forecasts were off by a large degree. And this meant that the merchandise planning team, the demand planning team, were not using the system, that they'd already paid millions into as often as they would have liked, right? So the ROI on the platform was not great. So what we had to do was one, build forecasting models outside of the system by bringing in new data sources, building drivers models, and making sure that the forecast accuracy in the first place was better by 15 to 20% from what it was, and we managed that, right? But the problem doesn't end there. You still don't want these forecasts to be lying somewhere outside of the core system, because for everything else,
Right.
the platform was the had all the workflow components, right? So we had to understand the system itself, the technology, and make sure that we had the pipeline for the data built, right? And also the insights, and writing the APIs to get the insights back into the operational system itself, so that it gets consumed by the planners on an everyday basis, right? So this is one example. If you don't mind, I can give you one more. So
Sure.
we also work with a large online travel company, and their challenge was they had millions of customers that were logging into their website on a daily basis. How do they prioritize which customers have the highest prospective value for them, and how do they make sure that the product and marketing levers are all geared towards making sure that these customers were given the right attention, right? So we helped we had to understand the data first. The data was fairly complicated because this is millions of users logging in on an everyday basis, and some of them logged in, some of them did not log in. They were just users, right? So how do you track those users and build a customer lifetime value model for each of them that helped figure out what the lifetime value of each customer was, but more importantly, what marketing actions, right, and what actions of the customer themselves on the website were driving their value, right? And again, how do you do it on a scalable basis? The first several months were experimental, right, in figuring out how to determine the right revenue metrics and the cost metric to determine the lifetime value. But after that, how do you build the pipelines to make this, usable on an everyday basis? And then we built a portal to enable, the consumers, the product and the marketing leaders to run scenarios, figure out where they want to put their bucks and what the ROI was.
I mean, such an important thing. Like we kind of take it for granted. Sometimes we think, okay, the technology that we have or the data we have is kind of the real silver bullets, but it really is about how do you actually take the two together, apply the people part and the process part, really understand how to leverage those rich assets that you have to get to that value. And really what I'm hearing you talk about, it's kind of that last mile to value. So you have the core foundation, but how do you make sure that clients are actually achieving their optimal goals? And so as we kind of progress into the era of AI, do you have any thoughts in terms of how AI is going to play into this space going forward?
Absolutely, Della, and I think everybody is talking about AI today, and in our conversations with every CDO, CEO, and chief analytics officer, AI is high on their list of things to experiment with, and it is experimental
Mhm.
to a large degree today. There are some. The way I think of AI is there are some use cases where there is already some form of automated intelligence in place, right? And those for those use cases, right, it becomes much easier for AI to just scale that up right away, right? But in many places, AI is still experimental in the sense that you have to run proof of concepts to test out not only whether the AI is helping with a use case, but also whether it is actually sustainable from a cost perspective, to use AI for that use case, because the cost of your GPUs and your compute is very, very high, right? So we are
Mhm.
actually running a lot of experiments for our clients and helping them think through Gen AI use cases. We are looking at use cases in the sales enablement area, right? How do you look at multiple signals from the market and from the customer to figure out who you want to target with what message? What is the next best
Mhm.
action for each customer? So
Mhm.
some use cases that we are helping our customers with right now.
I would like to thank you on behalf of the CDO magazine for joining me, Mukund, and sharing all of your thoughts and insights. And I'd like to encourage everybody to go to the CDO magazine for more insights and interviews. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks for having me today.